What's up, guys? In today's video, I'm gonna show you guys how to fill out a contract to lease. So what I want to go over today is basically when you put in an offer for a rental, a contract to lease is basically a document that is gonna highlight all the basic terms of the lease. It's a simple document. It's only 2-3 pages long, and it basically highlights, who's the tenant, who's the landlord, what's the move-in date, how much is the rent, who's going to occupy the property, all the very basic terms that you would need for a lease agreement, you would put on the contract to lease. So I'm going to show you guys how to do that today in this video. So I'm going to share my screen really quick. And I already have a rental property here as an example that we're going to use. So the very first thing you want to do is you want to open up IMAP because we're going to want to get the owner information. And we're going to open up Form Simplicity. So we'll open that in a new tab. So let me go ahead and log in here. We should have Form Simplicity. We should have IMAP. All right. So first thing, Form Simplicity, guys. We can go ahead and fill out all the information of the parties here. But in this case, we're not going to do that. We're just going to hit Save to a Transaction. We're going to put, this is the transaction name, same as address, property type, residential, transaction type, lease/rental. Save to new transaction. And we have our transaction here. So we want to go ahead and add blank forms. And we're going to search for contract to lease. And here it is, contract to lease. All right, guys. So this document, like I said, it's pretty simple. We have 3 pages. The first 2 pages are really where you're going to fill it out. And the third page is just a signature page. You have 16 total sections. So let's go ahead and go through each one. Number one, basically, we want to put the landlord and the tenant's name. So in this case, we go to IMAP, we pull up the owner, William Lopez. So we just copy and paste. Prospective tenant, you would put their first name and last name. I'm just gonna put here first name, last name. And basically what you want to put here is what it's basically saying is the landlord and tenant agree to execute a lease agreement no later than blank. So the date that you put here, you're basically saying that we have to actually do a real lease agreement by this date. Otherwise, this basically contract to lease is null and void, and the tenant could back out and get their deposit back. So you want to give yourself plenty of time. Usually, what I like to do is do a few days before the move-in date. So today is November 17th. Imagining that they're trying to move in the first, I would say, listen, we want a lease agreement done by the 27th of the month. Which is plenty of time. You could have done, maybe the 30th as well, the last day of the month. That's fine as well. So as long as there's a lease agreement by the 30th, everything is fine. And if you're moving in on the 1st, you should definitely have a lease agreement by the 30th. You should have a lease agreement within probably a day or 2 after the offer is accepted. So that shouldn't take very long. But just to protect yourself in case there's any delays, give yourself plenty of time. So I put there. So we'll put here November 30th. The lease. Who will prepare the lease? You always want to check the box that says landlord. So typically, the landlord's agent will be the one to prepare the lease agreement. All right. Number 2, the deposit. So in this case, the rent was $25.50. So we're gonna put here the deposit is $25.50. And if in the event that we are holding it, we'll put Element Real Estate Group. Most of the times we will hold escrow for a rental. In the future, we might not hold if you're watching this video way after it's recorded, It is very possible that we might not be doing escrow holdings anymore. So please ask to make sure that, who are you supposed to hold the escrow deposit with. But for right now, 2,550, and that deposit is to be held with Element Real Estate Group. All right. You should be collecting your deposit at the time that you're submitting the offer. Okay. So at the time you're submitting the offer, you collect the deposit. This is what ties the tenant to the property. Okay. This is what stops the tenant from, 1 week from today saying, oh, I don't want the property anymore after a lease has been done and everything. If they don't want the property, that's okay, but they're going to lose that deposit. All right. Number 3, straightforward, the property address. It's already populated because we pulled the information from the MLS. Then it's also going to ask you if the property is furnished or unfurnished. In this case, it's unfurnished. And then it's asking you, the property will be used for only residential purposes and occupied by only tenant and the following persons. So here's a good spot to put any children or anyone else that will occupy property. So you will write their names here. So you would write, they have a son, they have a daughter. If there's a grandparent moving in with them, you would fill that information here. You would put their names. All right. And it's always good to put like their age. So I would write something like, let's just say, it's Dominic Perez. I usually will put 14 years old. So that lets them know that they're a minor. So we don't need to provide any further information. They're a minor. So that way that, it might save you some time. They might not ask you, hey, who's Dominic? Is this an adult or is this a child? So I usually will put their age if they're a child. So that way they know, All right, guys, number 4, the lease term will begin on. And in this case, let's just say it begins December 1st. And it's always going to end, guys, in exactly a year. So we're going to go all the way back to November 30th. It has to be 1 full year round. All right. The lease term should be for 1 full year round, 365 days. Number 5, money due before occupancy. So it says here, tenant will pay the sum of blank in accordance with the paragraph below before occupying the property. All right. So over here, basically, guys, what you want to do is you want to fill this information out. Most of the times on the MLS, most properties require first month's rent, deposit, and last month's rent. So in this case, we're going to put $25.50 for the first month's rent, $25.50 for last month's rent, and the $25.50 for the security deposit, all due December 1st. Okay, all due December 1st. This is all money due before occupancy. In reality, they're going to put 1 month now when we hold that deposit. But as far as the moving goes, as far as getting the keys between the landlord and the tenant, all of this money is due on the 1st. All right. Pet deposit, let's just assume there's a pet deposit here and it's $250. That would also be due on December 1st. Now notice up here at the beginning of the paragraph, it auto-populated 7,900. It auto-populated that. So it added these numbers automatically and it auto-populated it. All right. Finally, on number 5, it says here the paragraph 2 deposit will be credited as follow. So it's saying paragraph 2, we mentioned the deposit. How is that going to be credited? So you always want to put that it's going to be credited. You want to check this box and it's going to be credited $2,550 towards the first month's rent. In reality, that deposit is usually going to be paid for your commission. And usually the first month's rent is used as the commission. So you want to just put here the full rent amount will be credited to the first month's rent. All right. Number 6, rent payments, taxes, and charges. So it's ask you a couple questions here, very straightforward. It says tenant will pay total rent for the lease term of, and what you want to do is you want to multiply what the total gross amount of the lease is. So you want to multiply 2,550 times 12, and that gives us 30,600. All right. Then it says tenant will pay total taxes when applicable, and you want to put 0. Always put 0 there. Tenants, we don't, they don't pay taxes on residential leases. That's only on commercial leases. So you always want to put 0. And then it's going to say tenant will pay the rent, including taxes as applicable, as follows. Check one of these, either in full on blank date or monthly on blank date. Most of the times, 99% of the times, guys, it's going to be monthly, okay, on the first day of the month, in the amount of whatever the rent is, $2,550 in this case. So that's how you fill this out. If they were going to pay the full rent in full, then you would say, well, they're going to pay it in full December 1st, and they're going to pay the total, $3,600. But most of the times, like I said, it's going to be monthly on the first of each month in the amount of $2,550. All right. Pets, if they're prohibited, just check the box that says prohibited. If they are permitted, even if they don't have pets, it's always okay to put that they are permitted. And for example, let's go back to the listing here. For example, in this one, there's no pets allowed, okay? But if there were, it usually will say something like, maximum 20 pounds. So you can put here maximum 20 pounds. You can put that there. But if they're prohibited, just check the box that says prohibited. Smoking, guys, 99.9% of the time, smoking will be prohibited. Landlords do not want tenants to smoke in the units because that could really, that smell could really get into the walls and really affect them trying to rent their unit in the future. So smoking is almost virtually always prohibited. And that's the first page, guys. That is the first page. Let's move on to the second page. So number 9, guys, talks about utilities. Tenant will pay for all utility service during the lease term except for blank. So you want to put whatever utilities the tenant does have to pay. The ones that are included are the ones you're going to list. So in this case, rent payment includes association fee and cable TV. So you can put here except for cable TV because cable TV is included with the association. A lot of times water is also included. So you would put water here. You could put water. FPL electric is usually not included, but it can be. Sometimes it could be. So basically what you're saying here is tenant's going to pay for all utilities except for water or except for cable. So you're going to put whatever is included, you're going to put it here. Number 10. Number 10 talks about maintenance, and you'll get more into the details of this during the lease. But it basically says landlord will be responsible for maintenance and repair of the property except for blank. This is very negotiable, guys. One rule of thumb I always use is I just put $100. And I'll just put landlord will be responsible for maintenance and repair of the property except for repairs of $100 or less. And that could be negotiable. Some landlords are going to say, so basically what we're saying is if the repair is $100 or less, tenant will repair it. If it's $100 or more, landlord will repair it. You could put typically whatever number there. $100 is usually a pretty good starting point. But just know that they might come back and say, no, it has to be 150 or it has to be 200. They might counter on that term. But to send the offer, that's usually a good starting point. $100 is a pretty fair amount. Anything $100 is or less is usually considered a minor repair. And then the tenant will usually take care of that. Number 11, association approval. So you always want to put tenant will pay the non-refundable application fee of $100. Sometimes it's more. So you want to go to the MLS and we're going to see here app fee $100. A lot of times it's 100, but sometimes it could be 150. Sometimes it could be 200. So check that. But most of the times it's 100. And make application for association approval by blank. So you want to put, usually you want to get the tenant a couple days to apply. So imagine today's the 17th. I would say probably by Friday they should be applying. So I would say that they should apply by a good 3 days. You want to imagine that you're sending this offer today on the 17th. Maybe you get a response by the 18th. So now you might already be under contract by the 18th tomorrow. And usually 1 or 2 more days after that is what you want to give the tenant to apply to the association. You want them to apply right away, but you want it to be reasonable too. They might have to take time. Sometimes applications are online, so they can do it quickly, but some associations they have to go in person, so they might have to take off work. So you want to give them 2-3 days to really be able to figure out how the application process is, and to make sure that they make they can take the time off work or do whatever it is they got to do to get that done on. So you want to make sure you give them a few days. All right. Number 12, additional terms. Here's where you guys will put anything. Now, what I will tell you is before you get ready to put your offer or as you show rentals, is remember, guys, that most landlords are renting properties as is. Of course, everything's negotiable, but you have to set the expectation to your clients that the property is being rented as is. You could ask for repairs. You could ask for the landlord to paint. You could ask for whatever you want, but set your client's expectation. Hey, we'll ask, but they're really trying to rent the property as is. So that way, if they don't get what they ask, they're at least you warned them about it. So here you could put a lot of things, guys. You could put landlord to cover lawn maintenance if that's not included. Landlord to pay for pool maintenance. You could put here, if you want them to, I don't know why this is misspelling. My bad, guys. I'm having a terrible time spelling maintenance right now. You could put here, landlord to paint, kitchen wall. Let's say there's a wall in the kitchen, that you don't like the way it's painted prior to move-in. So you would say landlord to paint kitchen wall white. Maybe it's a weird color, orange, crazy color that your client doesn't like. Whatever extra you want to do is you can put it here. One thing I will tell you is that everything in the property should be working. So if something's just totally not working, feel more than welcome to add it on there. I mean, your tenant should move into a property where everything is functioning as it should be. So if something's clearly broken, by all means put it on here, and the landlord should do that. But things like painting, things like, hey, I want you to cover the lawn maintenance, those things, sometimes you get them, they'll do it, sometimes they won't. So just know that, everything's negotiable, but just set your client's expectation that they're renting the property as is, and that you'll ask, you'll try to get that for them, but there's no guarantees. All right. All right, guys, moving on. Number 14 just talks about is the prospective tenant a service member as defined by Florida Statute 250.01. So if they are, you want to put yes. If they're not, basically, if they're in the military, if they're a veteran, you want to put yes. If they are, all it means is that the landlord has to must provide a reason why they're denying the tenant. So they must give a reason, a written reason why they're not approving the tenant. All right. So if you're a veteran, you're in the military, you get that. Finally, here, number 16, guys, prospective tenant agent. So you would put your name, Element Real Estate Group, and in this case, you would put the listing brokerage and the listing agent's name. And finally, guys, it's just a signature page. I don't recommend you put your client's phone and email on here. I don't like doing that just because I'm going to send this offer to the listing agent. I don't want the listing agent necessarily. They're going to have it anyways in the application. But I don't know. I just if I could avoid just adding it on here. But it doesn't matter because when you send the offer, guys, you're going to send the offer with a rental application, and it's going to have your client's email. It's going to have your client's phone number. It's going to have personal data of the tenant, because that's how, you know, the landlord is going to screen them and do that. So whether you put it here or not, it's fine. But I typically don't. I just go ahead and get it signed and dated, and then make sure every single page is initialed by your client. So initial here, initial here, initial here. So don't forget, they got to initial every page, and on the last page, sign and date. All right. And guys, that's pretty much how you fill out the contract to lease. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. If you have any other questions, anything at all that you know, while you're filling out this document, something comes up, you're not sure exactly what to do, feel free to reach out to me. You know, I'm always here for whatever questions you guys may have. All right. Have a great day, guys.